In this video, I'm going to show you how to use this template to implement the profit first method for your company. And at the end, I will actually share a link. So make sure you stay till the end so that you can see the link where you can access this template for yourself. All right, so let's jump into it. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is actually start at step one. So that's what the template looks like, but we're going to actually start here. You're going to actually need to figure out what revenue range your business falls into. And then these are target allocation percentages. So these are goals. You may not actually be at these percentages, and that's okay. If you've read the book Profit First, then you kind of understand the concept of target allocation percentages versus caps and moving them over time. I will tell you now, this is a simplified method for people who may not have read Profit First yet, but they want to get started with this method of accounting or essentially bookkeeping for their business. Okay. So in the book, they talk about the 5 accounts that every business owner needs to have. You need to have your revenue account. This is the money that's coming into your business. That's why it's at 100%. So all of the money that comes into your business should be coming into one account. Then you'll have a profit account, which is the first allocation. You want to have a certain amount of profit that's set to the side, put in a separate account, and make that account difficult to get to. Okay. So once you transfer the money into this account, you don't want to easily be able to transfer it out. Next, owner's pay. This is the target allocation. It is a step down over time, but you'll see here this is the amount that you should aim to pay yourself when you're at the respective revenue levels. Next, tax. And I'm not going to get too much into this in this video, but essentially you want to make sure that you're pulling money out of your profit and setting it aside from day one. So you don't want to get to the end of the year, you're doing your tax bill and you realize, oh, I don't have enough money left to pay the IRS, the state, whomever. So you want to pull that money, put it into another account that's hopefully difficult to get to again, and set that to the side. And then finally is your operating expense account. So these are your contractors, your bills, your overhead, your rent. So this is a target as to how much of your real revenue you should be spending on expenses. So I use this as a benchmark. So you may not be here at day one, and that's okay. Next, we're going to go into step 2, which is the actual template itself. So I have a few little groups here. So you'll see these little plus signs that you can actually expand on. So the first thing that I have here is an overview of the profit first percentages. So you're going to determine your income level and enter your profit first target percentages here. So your target allocation percentage will go here. You'll see that these percentages are from the first column here. And the bank accounts that we're measuring are profit, owner's pay, taxes, operating expenses. Next, this information up here is actually going to be pulling from further down below. You'll see I color coded some of these. So you'll see the green is the net profit. That's the profit that we're measuring. Owner's pay, we have that separated. And taxes are separated, as well as operating expenses, which you can find right here. Gross profit is a little bit different than the 100% real revenue, and I'll get into that in a second. This number you should see in your bookkeeping system. So this is a slightly adjusted system, but if you're using Wave, it says gross profit, and I'll explain what that is. You'll see that in this template, there's some cells that are black and white and some that are white and black. So anything that's white background, black text, that's for you to update. Anything that has a black background or colored black background and white text, that means this sheet is going to automatically calculate that for you. So you really just need to work in these fields to update these. You can also add little notes for yourself on the side. So that's a quick overview as to the color scheme in this spreadsheet before you start freaking out about, hey, what do these different colors mean? All right. So This spreadsheet is going to give you like this little dashboard at the top here, and it's going to calculate based off of the information that we'll input below. The information below is essentially coming from your bookkeeping system, or you're setting those goals at the beginning of the month so that you have goals that will populate up here, and I'll show you that in a second. The next thing is you actually need to make these transfers happen. So you can determine how frequently, maybe you want to do it weekly, maybe you want to do the transfers at the end of the month. But this is essentially when you're going to schedule these transfers. All right, so let's keep going. So the next thing that you'll see here is how would you like to reward yourself for the month? So if you actually hit your goals, hit your targets, and you follow the method, you should really give yourself a reward. So an incentive for you to look forward to, or something that you want to do, get. At the end of the day, we are operating our businesses because we want to achieve a certain goal, a milestone, generational wealth, whatever it is that's important to you. So make sure that you reward yourself along the way. This is not meant to be a battle the entire way. You can actually reward yourself. So let's go into the second group here. So this is for the month of January. And again, you can always update these months yourself. And you'll see here that we have goal, actual, variance to measure the difference, and then some notes. So I have some helpful notes here for each section, kind of speaking to what to measure, what to include, etc. So income, you'll see I have a few different categories here. Maybe you only sell one widget, so you'll only have one income category. Maybe you have separate services that you offer, and you might want to measure how much income is coming in from each service, so you can see, hey, if I want to change my business plan, or just pivot at some future point, then this might be valuable data for you to have. So whatever level to which you want to measure revenue, maybe it's just all in total, or maybe it's broken down by widget or service line, you can do that here. You can also add additional lines. So let's say my goal for this month is I want to have 50,000 of income 1 and 2,000 of income 2. You'll see that some things are starting to calculate and things are happening. Don't get too hung up on that. Let's say it's the end of the month and I can actually see my actual. I actually brought in 45 and I actually brought in 3,000 over here. So a little bit shy of my goal in total, but these are the amounts that I'm going to enter here. Next, you're going to want to enter your cost of goods sold. So this is going into the calculation of gross profit. So your total income minus your total cost of goods sold equals your gross profit. These are a little different than operating expenses, because these are the things that you have to pay for regardless of anything else going on in the business. So let's say you're selling t-shirts. If you have to buy the materials in order to sell or make a sale, then that's going to go into this cost of goods sold number here. So let's say it's 1,000 on one. So that's a really good margin. So to make $50,000, you need to spend 1,000. And let's say for income 2, to make 2,000, you need to spend 2,000. So that doesn't really sound like a really great business model, but we're just using some round numbers here. So let's say your actual was 5,000. So maybe you underestimated. That's okay. And this was really 500. All right. So now we have some numbers here for income and cost of goods sold. And now we're here at our gross profit. So we can see what we brought in. Next, operating expenses. So this is where you'll list out all of the expenses that you're paying. So your contractors, your rent, your supplies, your dues and subscriptions, whatever it is that you have to pay each month to keep the proverbial lights on, those are the things that you're going to list here. So I'm just going to put some numbers here just to get us started. And then you'll see down here, it's calculating a total. You'll see here that we are not entering an amount here because we're using the amount as a baseline that is projected based off of the target allocation percentage. So we should be spending about 30% of our profit in this real revenue range on operating expenses. So I use this as a baseline to see, hey, am I spending more than I should be? Am I in the right realm of things? So I don't want to necessarily budget every single line. But for me, just getting started out on this template, I may be better equipped to just say, hey, this is my baseline, and then I'll measure the actual expenses. You can upgrade and say, I want to actually build this out for every single expense category. That's completely up to you, and you can update this in the system. So I'm choosing to do the simplified method where I'm just saying, hey, what should my target be based off of my income range? And what am I actually spending? Okay, so next I'm going to close this second group. Sorry, that was the third group. And now I have how much should I be putting to the side for taxes? This is what was recommended. And then I can say what I actually put to the side for taxes. Next, I can say, how much should I really be paying myself for owner's pay? And I can say how much I put to the side in that account. Maybe I didn't actually pay myself that much. Maybe I actually had more expenses than I was expecting. And I might end up in a situation where I actually could not pay myself as much as I wanted to at the end of the month. This is a real scenario, right? So how many times have you been, operating for the month, you realize, oh, I need to invest in that. This broke down. I need to change this out. And at the end of the month, you realize I actually don't have much left over for myself. So we're upside down in our business and we want to be right side up. So this is not the ideal scenario, but I'm just showing it here as an example. So now I'm going to go back up here at the top and figure out, all right, how am I doing versus what was the goal? So for profit, I am actually here, right? So our profit is actually 5,000 in this scenario, which isn't terrible. So we actually are higher than what was originally allocated. So that's a semi win, but we didn't actually pay ourselves. So now we want to take a look at what's up here to see how does it compare to the goal that we set originally for the month. So our actual is, hey, we are a little more than double where we wanted to be for profit, but not necessarily a great thing because at the same time, we didn't end up paying ourselves much. We also were slightly shy of how much we should put to the side for taxes, and we overspent. Our expense goal was about 15,000 and we spent about 32,000. So because our expenses are higher, we probably don't need as much for taxes, but I'm not going to get into all that right now. Essentially, this is now measuring what we did here in actual versus what the goal was. And then here we'll document when we actually made these transfers in our bank accounts to keep ourselves accountable and make sure that we're actually making these profit first transfers and not just keeping everything in one account. You want to actually digitally or physically move this cash so that way everything is spread out and you're not tempted to spend what's sitting all in one account. So now that's essentially an overview of how you can use this template to track all of your different profit first accounts. You can essentially use this to see how are you tracking against the goals or the target allocation percentages versus your actual spend and what you should be spending in those categories. So use this template as a starting point. You can always change things. You can always manipulate this or update it to make it your own. I have done this template so that you can actually budget out or plan out a quarter. So if you want to add additional months to the side, you can do that. But this is for you to kind of plan out a quarter, and then you can always make a copy to plan out the next quarter. You can do all 4 quarters at one time to plan out your full year, but you want to at least be tracking a quarter at a time at minimum. So you'll see here, same information over to the right for these other periods. I have them grouped so that if you wanted to close out 1 month and just look at the next month coming up, if you wanted to see the next 2 periods, you can do that as well. But essentially, it's an Excel or Google Sheet, so you can customize this however you'd like. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that this will help you in your profit first journey and just help you to start putting your profits first, paying yourself, or at least thinking about how to implement these things inside of your business and coming from this framework of, listen, I'm in business to make money first. And I may need to use this operating expense number as a mechanism to give me a wake up call as to where do I want to get my expenses to. So in this scenario, when I'm looking at, all right, I really overspent on operating expenses. So now I'm going to use some tactics to keep my expenses down. Maybe I'll start doing annual subscriptions as opposed to monthly subscriptions just to save on my different softwares or things that I'm using. I will try to renegotiate certain contracts, look for new vendors. But I know that when I see this number, my goal for the next month is going to be focusing on bringing this down in this quarter because it's really going to greatly impact everything else. So if I brought in 42, let's say 43K, but most of it went to expenses, then I'm doing something wrong in that case. That's my opinion. Maybe I had to make a big investment in that period and it's going to pay dividends later on. I don't know. But I definitely don't want to keep this as a continuous as a continuous practice. So this is just one example, one scenario. If you are using this template and you have questions or you want to customize it or you need to build this out differently, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to do a consultation or a financial coaching session to help you set this up for yourself inside of your business to make it work for you. So that's everything for now. Hope this was helpful.